Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Join hosts Nick Koziel and Christine Green as they spotlight the incredible leaders, visionaries, and innovators shaping Rochester and the 585 community. From transformative stories to big ideas, we celebrate the people making our community a better place to live, work, and thrive. So sit back, relax, and listen to what makes the 585 sound terrific.
Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585 with Nick Koziel and Christine Green. And today we have V. Spehar. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, we're going to talk about all the good things in the 585. And we want to dive right in to a little bit, keeping it Rochester 585 focused. Now, V, you have TikTok followers worldwide at this point, right? We're looking at like 3.5 million, something like that.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you're a 585er.
I am. Yes. And a lot of people, what was funny is when you're a public figure on the internet, in particular on TikTok, people make up all kinds of like conspiracy theories about you because that's the internet.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ones was that I actually wasn't from Rochester and I was lying to people saying that I was from here to appear more relatable. But actually, I lived with my parents in Palm Springs, California. And I was like, first of all, my parents have never even been to California. I grew up in Connecticut, lived in Manhattan, and then have lived here for the last 5 or 6 years. I was like, that is such a stretch, to the point that people were like, yeah, I went to high school with them. I'm like, I assure you that you didn't. I'm much older than you guys think I am. But it was crazy. I was like, who lies about being from Rochester? Like, why would I lie about that?
Yeah, that is so bizarre.
Yeah.
So, so you've been here about 5 years. So you came here, what, pandemic area?
Literally, it's like my 5-year anniversary. I think maybe even like today or tomorrow. Well, we're recording this in May, but it was in May that I moved to Rochester. I was living in Brooklyn and it was pandemic time and it was absolutely terrible. My wife had gone to the Eastman School of Music.
Nice.
And so when, all music and her touring and everything shut down, she was like, maybe we should go back to Rochester. I could probably pick up a couple teaching gigs for a couple of weeks. That's what we thought it was going to be. And it was fortuitous that one of my friends was like renting his house out because he was dating a gal in Buffalo. So he was trying to rent his house out, but just short term, just to see how it was going to go. And so we were like, oh, that sounds great because we only want to come for a couple of weeks. So we'll see how it goes. And he was like, why don't we do like 2 months? And we were like, yeah, sure. And that turned into, we lived in that house for the first like year and a half that we were here because obviously and that was Brighton. We lived in Brighton at that time. And I loved Brighton, right in the 12 Corners area. So there was like a lot we could walk to and do. And I just remember when she told me we're going to move to Rochester, I was like, no, we're not. And she was like, no, you're really going to like it. And then she like really stacked the deck because Brooklyn was so bad. It was so terrible. And she had gone ahead in the car with our dog. And so I was driving the U-Haul up to Rochester from Brooklyn. And as I was driving, I was going from like desolate, terrible New York to like the Finger Lakes. It was very pretty. It was spring. And then I'm like coming in, I'm like, do I smell lilacs? Like, what is this place? Right. And we were staying in an Airbnb that backed up to Highland Park. So it was like gorgeous. And the Airbnb had like an outside shower. And she had gotten me like Lento pickup for dinner and a case of Labatt. And I was like, this is paradise. This is the greatest place on earth. And I think that she really wanted to stay here. She gave me like a real ringer experience.
She brought you before it was winter too, so
she did. She sure did.
Well, I like that Labatt's was like the thing that really set you over, and then there was Labatt's, and this is beautiful and wonderful. Well, and it's funny because we don't have 3.5 million TikTokers. We have like maybe 3.5 TikTok followers. And and now they all know you're definitely here in Rochester.
Yeah.
We're proving it with those 3.5 people that follow us. They're gonna be like,
well, people see me in Wegmans and stuff now, so they'll be like, I'll make a video. I'll tell them I see you in Wegmans all the time. I'm like, I know.
It'll just grow the conspiracy.
Yeah, people believe it now.
I feel like nowadays, the more you prove something, the less proof it is. It's like the opposite. So
totally.
But just like, because we're on the talk about Rochester and the 585, like what was you talked about a bunch of different things, but like what was like the one thing that really like made you realize, wow, this could be home?
It was so big to me, which sounds crazy coming from Manhattan, right? Because you think like, oh, the city has everything, but the city is so expensive and really inaccessible, I think, in a lot of ways. And I saw it becoming more and more inaccessible. Like when I moved to New York in like the early 2000s, at first, you could still do a lot of free stuff. It was pretty cool. And then it became sort of like the Disneyification of Broadway, the lack of funding for like cool art stuff, the closing of gay bars even. And so, and then you go to work and you're like at work all day, and you could maybe go out like once or twice a week if you really want to spend that money. But, you pretty much, once you find a wife, you don't really want to go out anymore. You're like, we're going to spend as much time in this expensive apartment enjoying it as we can. And so when I came up here, I just felt like there was so much to do, and there were so many people willing to do the stuff. Like I would go to something that I thought was just like, like a little live music in the park or something, and it would be really full and it'd be really thoughtfully planned. There'd be like the food trucks, but there were also enough bathrooms, and there were also enough, like the MC seemed like they really knew the people, and everybody seemed like they sort of were a community. And I hadn't had that since I lived in Frederick, Maryland, which is a very similar kind of like cute town.
Yeah.
And so, so I just loved that straight off the bat. I loved that I felt like people really took time to enjoy things here and to go to stuff, like I said. So it was a spring and summertime, and we went to like Lake Ontario almost every day. It was free. There weren't a ton of hotels. It's like truly for the locals. And I loved that. I really appreciated that. We would go, drive through Letchworth Park and have a picnic, and other people were doing the same. And they kind of look up and wave at you, but it's not like over involved in your life, but you recognize that you are with other people who are enjoying themselves. And so I think that's what I really loved about Rochester first, was this idea that like you could enjoy yourself and also see other people pretty much enjoying themselves. It wasn't like, oh, I'm having a good time and all these people look like they're struggling, or there's like a VIP Rochester experience and then what everybody else has. It's kind of accessible to everybody, which I really liked.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of, and I want to get, but we're going to have more Rochester questions, but I want to ask a little bit for people who are listening or watching who may not know a lot about your journey here now in terms of your career and your profession. And one of the things that I find really interesting is that you didn't start out in journalism, correct?
No.
And I had a similar, my journalism is very different with 585, right? I'm writing arts and culture, lifestyle, but I started out in a completely different field in anthropology and archaeology. And you have a degree in theater, is that correct?
I have a degree in theater, and then like all little girls who want to end up on Broadway, I worked in restaurants for 15 years. So I have a degree in theater and a career in hospitality that came before this. And I think honestly that career really prepared me for what I'm doing now, because I treat the news like I treated the dining room, right? Where I'm like, my Saturday brunch guests don't care at all if the eggs are cold, how great my Friday night was. And you're constantly taking in like fractured information from the waiters and then trying to shout it out to the cooks on the line and then trying to bring that food back out and give a good dining room experience. And like just the chaos of it all, and the fact that there's so much information, I think is like really equipped me to being a journalist, because you have to make decisions quick and you have to have like foundational truths that are always true. Right. And I think that applies in cooking as well. There are you can make food every different way you want and be fusiony, but the process of cooking something is, fundamentally true. It's cooked or it isn't, or it's overcooked. And I think in journalism, we've gotten so used to like alternative facts and differing narratives, but that's all fine and good as long as we are all agreeing on the baseline undeniable facts of the situation, right? So I think it's been really helpful to me. And also I worked in DC in hospitality. So I had sort of this like behind the scenes look at the way that politicians act in the theater of DC. And so when they do something theatery, I don't know if it's the background in theater that makes me clock it, or the having been in their pantries for all those years, but I'm always like, oh, that's bullshit. That's not real. That's part of the show. That's part of the show.
I mean, we're all storytellers, even politicians, right? I mean,
yes.
And I think that's what charisma in many different ways is about, is how can I sell a good story? And sometimes those storytelling moments come from true inner feelings or a desire to do really great art, but other times it comes from manipulation or trying to tell something that's it's just a little bit maybe
Little off.
not going to benefit everybody.
Well, let me say one more thing about the theater thing. So the other thing is growing up, I was much more feminine in high school and even in college because that's like the way that you had to be. But I never really played like the lead girl role. I always played the narrator. And so I think something that I've also taken from my theater career is the idea of like facing the audience and filling in the gaps. And that's what I do with the news, right? So whether it's the narrator in Joseph, which I played literally a million times, like so many times, it's the idea of like, hey, here's what's happening, and we're all looking at it and maybe taking something away from it. And now I'm going to come to you in a very gentle way and help advance the story and fill in the gaps for you so that you can continue on the journey together. And that's the way that I do the news. I'm never making myself a part of the show so much as trying to help the viewer, the audience member, whatever you want to call them, find their own path towards where they should be going if they stayed on the path of truth.
It's interesting where those skills get developed too. Like I grew up like, on Long Island and did a lot of theater too. Was never the lead, right? Partly because like I was a good singer, but I could not dance. So like when you got to the musicals and stuff like that, I had no left feet. It wasn't even like whatever. It just was not good at dancing. So one of the roles that came up that I probably would have gotten was Rick Moranis played in Little Shop of Horrors, the main.
Oh yeah, Seymour. Yeah.
Right, but we couldn't get the plant. Right, so my
right,
you got to rent the plant. But anyways, like I did a lot of those kinds of like support roles, and like also did a lot of things like stage managing and stuff as well. So, but you pick up those skills and you use things. I do improv now at Comedy at the Carlson. So like a lot of that is what I use when I'm interacting with people.
You have to be a good listener. When you have to be a great listener to be a stage manager, to be an ensemble member. You're reacting to other people. You're a part of a community, an ensemble. And I agree. I think that that's been, ultimately super helpful of being an active listener, not a listen to react person. Because those are the worst actors, the people who don't listen and just do their next line.
What was that? I'm just kidding.
Nick.
No, he thinks he's funny, but he's not. But yeah, there you go. So that's why I didn't get a lead. Right there. No, but I think that I can see that in you. And the other part of it is I totally get when you say you can kind of feel out the faker or the person that's putting on an act because you have such experience in that. And that's such an asset, especially in the news and being able to filter through, all right, is this guy telling me the truth? Is this a reliable source? What else do I need to ask this person to kind of get to the truth, right?
And also the most charming, handsome people are always the villain. So I'm not typically taken by, Rapunzel's prince because I learned from Into the Woods that it's not going to turn out well for me if I do that, So I think everything I've ever learned, I've learned from a musical.
Oh, life is a musical.
That's great.
I love it.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Yes. So Jesus Christ Superstar is my favorite one I've ever been in. I actually met my wife. I was playing Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar, which I think is such a great character.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really fun one. And when I was young, I was a very good tap dancer. My grandmas were tap dancers, and so they really made me, go to dance.
I used to do a little tap back in the day.
Oh yeah, I was a hell of a tap dancer. So I love the big, I love the big old style shows like 42nd Street or like Kiss Me Kate. I love a big dance break. I think it's just
awesome.
such like a wonder moment for the audience that's produced by people and not by technical spectacle, which is also very important. Like if you go see Wicked, your mind's going to be blown by the technical spectacle. But I love the idea of like just being in awe of somebody who can dance or somebody who can sing, it's like really cool.
I guess I'm going to have to leave the conversation.
Well, you can sing. You can sing, Nick.
That's
there we
true.
go.
But I will say the funniest thing is like when one of the first parts that I got was like in 5th grade. I was one of the radio sound effects guys in Annie, and so there was a part where you had to do tap with shoes on a box, right?
Yep.
Making the sound of the radio stuff, and even that was like
that counts. Dance solo.
Yeah,
Nick,
dance solo. Right there. All right, but no, I think one of the things that I also just to bring up with theater is like, so you have a couple musicals that you really like. Is there did you ever get into the sort of the more dramatic side, the more serious theater?
No, I have dyslexia, so reading a whole play is really difficult for me. And I was just like I honestly, like when I look back on how much I avoided my learning disability as opposed to have tried to face it. I wish I would have faced it a little bit more, because there's so many things that people talk about now that I had to catch up on later. Like when it was my turn to read out loud in school, if I was really panicked about it, my mom would just keep me home from school that day and they would just skip over me and I wouldn't have to do it. But I feel like now I missed out on so much, because like I've read 1984, but I mostly watched the play.
Sure.
I saw the Harry Potter books on the shelf, but I mostly watched the movie. Like I caught up on a lot of things without giving myself the space to read and reflect and use my own imagination with them. And something I worry about with kids and Chat GPT now is maybe it was my dyslexia that kept me from like really being a voracious reader or like really being a book person or learning plays. And I now at this age, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have like had a little more confidence to be honest about why it was difficult for me and maybe gotten some help. Whereas for kids now, I'm like, you guys are going to be sorry that you Spark Notes and Chat GPT'd everything just to pass the test, because there is such like confidence and like human building that comes from being a young person and your job is school or reading or art or play. And I worry about kids nowadays not having that space or prioritizing that space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, as you know, in journalism, a huge concern, AI.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm married to a professor who teaches at SUNY Brockport in the history department, and his his experience daily is parsing out AI, and we talk a lot about how it affects our kids. My kids are in their 20s, how it's going to affect the future, and how do we use it without completely throwing under the bus. And mine, it's very difficult for me as a writer and a journalist to embrace it. I
I've
mean,
never
that's
used
huge.
it. I've never personally used it. I can't say people on my team haven't used it for prompts or something, but I wouldn't even know how to do a Chat GPT. And that's sort of like intentional ignorance, because I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do it. I know that we'll have to face it in some way. But going back to reading out loud and plays out loud, I think there's also some stuff that we learn as children in school or even like college or people who do improv classes about what it feels like to say something that we don't want to say something ugly, to say something that we're learning a lesson from. And whether you're doing that through in-person connections where like I'm writing a book right now and I have a chapter about how I bullied somebody when I was 11 years old. And it took me bullying this girl to hear myself out loud say something ugly and be like, I never want to do that again. Like that felt terrible to me. I thought bullying somebody might feel good because I got bullied all the time. It's got to be fun. And then when I did it, I was like, oh gosh, no, I never want to feel how I feel the way this person's looking at me. And I think with plays and reading out loud and just art spaces for young people and even for us, it's the feeling of saying something out loud that's ugly, whether you're a character in a play or not, and feeling the weight of that without the consequence of that being now who you are forever, right? Like you have to be able to kind of like see the light in the dark. And I think that, yeah, theater taught me a lot of that.
Yeah. Coming from, yeah, thank you. Coming from like a family of educators and all that, it just to kind of touch on that, I think there, and even what you were saying, Christine, we really need to start approaching it on how to incorporate it into the curriculum rather than restrict it or try to find the cheater. Too often we made that mistake. Like I always use the example of the calculator. When the calculator came out, can't use the calculator. It's cheating. It's cheating. Now, like there are like courses that are dedicated to using the calculator, like the computer, all these different things were like not used as tools at first. They were thought as like this is a way to cheat. And so if you take
it was true when it came to writing. They don't know how to do cursive anymore. That has gone away with the typing.
Yeah, and that's tough. It's just I think that there's a new approach that we need to kind of look at when it comes to those things, because all of these students are going into that world, and all these students are going to use those tools in their real life in some way, shape, or form, right? So that's kind of my challenge always to educators when they're like, oh, we can't use this. No, no way possible. And I'm doing my ADD in Warner School at U of R. And one of the things the couple of the professors have been pushing is using it as a thought partner. So come up with your own ideas and then shoot it into ChatGPT and kind of figure out, like, help develop the idea with you rather than have ChatGPT write things. So
The thing I worry about with AI art, right?
mhm.
And we see a lot of this is the fact that historically, to feel the feeling of yourself being a hero or being strong or being any of the things that, in particular,
Sure.
Donald Trump, let's say, has positioned himself, he uses a lot of AI art stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To historically have felt those things, you've had to do them. And now people just sort of make an avatar of themselves, and then they have all of the range of emotions and sense of accomplishment because their avatar has completed things in the matrix that they're not actually accomplishing in real life. And I wonder where that break comes, where we recognize that like we have to get back to in real life accomplishment, whether that's academically, like you could be really smart online because you can Google the answer, but have you actually learned something? And what does it feel to be an expert? What does it feel to learn something is so important, and an accomplishment, it takes time. Or what does it feel like to be a soldier, right? And to have won an award and not just with the award in the video game or in the matrix system. And that is something that I also worry about with kids, is like the way that we have changed their sense of person from being a full 4D person to I have two lives. One is my 4D person that I have been taught to hate, and the other is the perfect creation I've made on the internet that, you know, gives me something I'm not getting in real life.
I mean, you just touched on it right on the head, actually, where with this, what's my suggestion is like designing, courses and education around those things. So like
Yeah.
you picked art, so we can just that's an easy example. So like you could say music, right? Got an app that I've used, Suno, right? Or Suno, I'm not even sure. It creates music, right? It's very obvious that it's AI created. But if you put in the context of like, as a music professor saying, okay, I want you to write a song, and then I want AI to write a similar song, right? You come up with the prompt, and then decode and decipher between the two things. What's the differences? Like, what do you feel about this one? And what's there, that's what I'm talking about. And that's kind of like what you were even saying in your response, is that there's a fear around like cutting corners. Well, cut them off at those corners, and kind of meet them in the middle and say, yeah, you're going to use these tools, but here are the building blocks to do it yourself, right?
Something, my wife is a cellist, and so she gets
I love
asked.
cello.
Yes, she went
My
to Eastman
favorite.
School, which is, I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So she is an expert at cello. She's a phenomenal cellist. She spent her entire life dedicated to the instrument, and when she plays it, it sounds different than even other people who play cello. Like there's something very special about the way she plays the instrument. And she will sometimes people will hire her to do the backing tracks. She did the backing tracks for like the Spider-Man movie, right? And she did the cello for that. And people will be like, wow, it sounds so different from the other version. And she's like, right, because the other version is like MIDI, right? It's like the synthesized, it sounds good enough, it sounds good enough to practice with, but you're losing the entire like humanity of the music when you don't have a real musician playing it. And I do think that folks are starting to catch on that, like, canned music and stuff really doesn't hit you in the feels the way that a live band will. And can we get back to investing in live bands type thing?
I mean, I'm very, Nick knows I'm very I don't even want to say it's not complicated. I really have a problem with AI, right? You can tell AI to write a poem and it's never going to be good as even the 18-year-old having a crisis in chemistry class doodling on their thing. And so, it's just an interesting world. And I'm constantly reminded by my historian husband that these challenges of technology changing our humanity are not new, whether it's, it's awful or weird and complicated as the cotton gin, right? To the cell phone and the cotton clothes we wear and the phones we're talking and recording on. I feel like it's part of my job as an artist journalist is to continually remind people humans are still working on doing things. Humans are still back here doing those things. And I want to kind of like ask, there's a couple questions I have that I definitely want to ask. So I want to turn a little bit of a corner. To get back to what it's like living in Rochester, and specifically in Rochester as a celebrity. And you mentioned and you joked, like, oh, people see me out at Wegmans. Do you feel how do you feel when you're out in the Rochester area and people recognize you? Is it a burden? Does it make you want to come into yourself a little more, or is
No.
it no?
No,
Tell me more.
it's phenomenal. It's really great. So there are a couple places I exist. I exist in New York City, in Washington, D.C., and in Rochester. And Rochester is my home. And I've made that very clear. This is my home, right? People see me out with my wife or my dogs or my niece or whoever. People in Rochester are much more normal with me and treat me like their neighbor and like are super friendly and are really kind about things and are like, sometimes I'll be in Wegmans and somebody will just be like, V, what's going on? How are you? Good to see you. I knew I would see you someday. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And it makes me feel normal. You know, it makes me feel like a neighbor, like a real person. And then there's some folks who will sort of like follow me around TJ Maxx or something for a little while, working up the confidence to say something, but they always want to say something nice. They always want to say, oh, I love that you're from Rochester. Oh, I love that, you know, I really trust you. You're great. Right. And so that's really good. And there are some people who want to say, I didn't really like that. Can you talk more about that? And I'm like, hey, I would love to talk to you about that. Like people in my very own neighborhood who don't agree with the stuff I do. Politically. So, but we can have a decent conversation because we are, again, neighbors. I belong here. I'm a part of this world. And that puts me on equal footing with everybody else in Rochester. We all like Dogtown plates, okay? We all like everything the same. So it makes me feel like a normal person a lot of the times. I am never inconvenienced or upset by anybody who approaches me in Rochester, truly ever. Now, when I'm in New York City, it's a little bit more, I think people are looking for a celebrity experience, and it's a lot of tourists also. It's a lot of people who aren't from the city. So they are looking for a celebrity experience. So if I walk past an 8th grade field trip that's like, you know, on their way to one of the museums or something, that tends to be a little bit more of a frenzied experience and a little bit more overwhelming. And when I'm in DC, what happens is people take pictures of you without you asking, which has never happened to me in Rochester. Nobody's ever tried to like be like V Spears seen out with Mystery Woman and the mystery woman is Sammy, my co-host on the podcast, or like something like that, right? So DC is by far the worst place to get recognized as any kind of public figure because the people who are in DC treat everyone and everything in DC like a museum or monument. It's for consumption, and there's very little consent in DC. So I would say that's the most difficult place to be a public figure. And by far the easiest and the most joyful is here. And if not here, at the Bills tailgates. So now I've used my celebrity at the Bills tailgates to get better tickets sometimes, or to get a good parking spot, or to like get a beer off somebody. They're like, oh, V. I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
So I just used that
right here.
celebrity to get musical tickets.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes you can use it for good, but most of the time I'm just a regular person here, and I really appreciate that. And the kind thing that people in Rochester have done is like the woman who did the landscaping for my house was like, well, I don't want to charge you because I feel like I owe you back for like everything you do for us. I was like, you need to charge me. We're just regular people. So I think more often than not, it's like being able to invest in other businesses in Rochester. And you know, we're members at the Genesee Country Village and Museum. I go there all the time. I get recognized there a ton. And people want to talk about history, and so do I, because I genuinely go there because I like it and I want to hear what they have to say about their family history in this area. And so I think again, Rochester's tops.
Rochester is tops. I mean,
people are normal here. They just act normal, you know?
Yeah.
They're
good. So plates or wings? What are you going for?
Oh, plates. So I'm not a spicy person. So I do like wings with blue cheese, of course. And I'm a flats person if I'm going to have wings. And I think Flight 57 in Greece has really good wings because they're smoked and fried. So if you ever, I know most people think about wings spots, but Flight 57, I think it's called, is phenomenal wings. They're very good smoked. But plates, I'm a double cheeseburger, no meat sauce, mustard, fries, and mac salad person.
Awesome.
So I have to admit that I have lived here for 25 years, almost 25 years, and I only had my first plate like about a month ago.
It's the perfect food. It's the perfect food. We make plates at home. Those are the best ones.
So Nick, don't you have the magazine, for God's sake?
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 full-page pictures of me stuffing a plate in my face from Vasco's on Park.
Oh, Vasco's is a good plate.
Yeah, we'd have a whole thing in this month's magazine of them feeding me a plate.
Yeah. Because I'm actually not a big Nick's person. I've been there. I went there once, but I didn't think it was like so the tops for me. I like Dogtown. I like the Bill Gray's plate, actually. I think Bill Gray's does a great plate. Charlie's, which I think is in Penfield, they do a good plate. But we make our own at home. Hooligans has a nice plate. Hooligans has good food. Their wings are pretty good too.
So the Doughboys, okay, I go to Sager and Stoneyard Brew often.
Oh yeah.
And the Doughboys are in there now. They make pizzas and stuff. And they had taken sort of like over the dining room, and I had always gotten these nachos there like all the time. And they just kind of took that off the menu. I was like bummed. And every now and then they have these specials and stuff, and like there's always some sort of special nacho. They did a garbage plate nacho.
Ooh.
It was phenomenal. I almost like went into the kitchen and just said, "You need to never take this off the menu."
That's what people want.
Yeah.
You know who else has good stuff is Scooters. Schooners on the river or on the
lake.
Yeah. They have a really good buffalo chicken wrap that I like, and they have a decent plate too. I think they have good nachos. I like them. And then we go to Silk Laughlin's because I like their chicken fingers, which I'm pretty sure are just frozen chicken fingers, but they're like the good kind, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they're certain
restaurant style.
Really good.
I'm all over the place. Yeah.
Well, no, that's okay. I mean, but when you mentioned
like, don't you go to Red? Don't you go to Lento? I'm like, no, I don't. I eat like a 5-year-old. I like truly, I don't. No.
I go with the best chicken fingers are. Where's the kids
Red's
menu
is
fingers?
Delicious. It's great, but I'm not a sit down for a whole thing person anymore. I did 15 years of that. I eat at home.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna say before we move on, Christine. She mentioned Nick's, and they mentioned Nick's, and the Anchor Bar and Duff's and Buffalo are sort of the original wing, right? And Nick's sort of the original plate or whatever. And I just find that like a lot of the times that sort of is that traditional where it started, but so much has evolved over the years, and they've stuck to the original recipe that, you know, it's great to go back and try that, but also the places that go on, you know, and have these little tweaks to like the recipe are often like, you know, just so much better because it's different, right? Everyone has their own little take.
See, when I make them at home, I have to have Wegmans mac salad because I think that is the best one. Like unobjectively, it's just easy. It's a good mix. It's the right amount of like wet macaroni salad, right? And then we do like the frozen crinkle fries, and I'll air fry those. But then I like the burger patties from Tops. Tops does like it's like a brisket prime burger mix that's quite good. And then we'll do like American or provolone cheese, and then we'll make them at home. It's very good.
See, people don't give Tops enough credit.
Oh, Tops is good.
I was in Tops
bakery
today.
Is good.
Yeah, that is too.
Yeah, their meat sales are good.
Their meat sales are great. Yeah, 5 for $20. I love it.
Yeah,
and their corn muffins, I like live on the Tops corn muffin and blueberry muffin. They got great.
I love that they have a day old bakery. Why doesn't Wegmans do that?
I love Tops layout. And they do boar's head meat there, which I prefer. So it's like
Hey, people do not give Tops enough credit. I wanted to ask a little bit again. I'm the one who keeps like,
bring us back, Christine. Bring us back.
So I wanted to ask you one thing I have noticed following you on social media, and even this conversation here, is how generous you are with the people who approach you and who need your help in certain ways. And most recently, you went on an interview, I think, with Mercury Stardust, right?
Yes.
To help her raise and I love her so much. Like, I'm a huge fan. Why was that important to you to be a part of what she was doing? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what she was doing for those who don't know what I'm talking about.
So every year, Mercury Stardust partners with Point of Pride, which helps raise money. It's more like a mutual aid organization than a nonprofit, which is number one why I liked it, because there's not a ton of overhead to the organization. So every dollar that you're giving is really going right back out the door, pretty much into the hands of tangible things that trans folks need, whether that's assistance with housing, or maybe it's just helping somebody buy a binder, or maybe it's helping them get hormones, or whatever the case may be. It could be anything, helping them get a job, anything that a trans person needs, Point of Pride can help them with. And so she does these fundraisers on TikTok, and they're 24 hours long, and I participated in several of them, and we've raised millions of dollars. I mean, and when I say we, I mean Mercury has, and I have very marginally participated with what I could do. So the reason why I like to do that is because there's a certain amount of my audience that's going to want to participate in that and feel community in that. And I always think, how can I introduce friends to more friends? So for that group of my audience, now they're going to know the Point of Pride organization, and now they're going to know Mercury a little bit more. Then they can follow her. Then you get on the Mercury pipeline, and maybe next year you're learning about Logan, Ireland, or you're learning about any number of other cool people in the community. And maybe that makes you feel seen, and maybe that helps you build out your friendships and your news diet and your community. So I'll do that. I also did a fundraiser for veterans organizations, because a lot of my audience is straight military guys, actually. And so we'll talk a lot about that, and I'll help them with their stuff. And again, it's not because I think everybody has to do everything. It's because a part of the Dust Bunnies crew probably would love to hear about that and feel seen by that and meet people over there. And so we do that. So for me, being generous with my time and space is like why I do this, right? So I am grateful that I got famous on the internet when I was a little bit older, because I think if I were like 25 or 26 trying to do this, you'd be getting a very different version of me. I am married. I have a very strong home life. I've had a career. I know things. I've had my heart broken. I've lost a job. I've lived a life, right? And so I think at this time, I can serve as a little bit more of a safe space, and there's more of myself to give than if I were like 25, 26 and I was still trying to put myself together. You probably wouldn't have as much access to me as I'm able to give this round. So I think it's important. I'm very cautious of not allowing myself to become a celebrity, if you want to say it like that, because I don't want to be. I'd like to be a public figure, and I'd like to always work, but I don't wish to put myself in a situation where I require security to attend my kid's flute recital, right? I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm so out of touch with my friends and neighbors that I'm no longer myself or can do the things that I love to do. So I have joked that I want to be medium famous, and people are like, there's no such thing. I'm like, I'm going to invent it. I just want to be where I am. I want to be where I'm welcome, where I'm comfortable, where I'm still in touch with the person that I am, because I like the person that I am. And that comes with decisions, right? There are certain opportunities I've been given that I don't take because it would fundamentally change who I am, and it might accelerate my career in a way that could make it shorter. So I'm cautious of that.
That's really smart thinking about.
But I could only do that with time and experience, right? People who are 25 don't think like that. Of course they don't. Like I said, you're still putting yourself together.
Well, you see those disaster stories too, like with young actresses and actors, and then also with, influencers. They don't know what to do with the fame, and a lot of them seem to get it from doing kind of silly or stupid things. And so they need to escalate until they're getting themselves in real big trouble over things.
You have to have a genuine talent to have a career. And what I wanted was a career, not virality. So it was like, okay, what is my talent? How do I do this? And I think of myself, if I were to give a metaphor, have you ever tried to feed like a hungry dog? And if you just put the food down, they're going to eat it up in 2 seconds, right? But if you give them one of those mazes where they have to kind of like work to eat all the food, it will take a little bit longer. The public is a hungry dog. You can't just put yourself all down on the plate for them. It'll be over really quickly. You have to kind of like hide the treats around the house and like make a reason for them to stay interested in you, and put the food in the bowl that takes a long time to eat,
And I think it's what you said is really important. In that, someone asked me lately, I had a lunch with a person, and I thought I was making a new friend. They were really, really great. But what I learned very quickly was that they were a business coach, and they were trying to kind of get me to be, and which is, everyone's got to, hustle, I suppose.
Sure.
No, they don't.
But I knew when they said, what do you expect from life and your career, and do you want fame? Like, do you want more money? And I said, I want peace. It just came right out of my mouth. And it took them a moment, and they were like, yeah, okay. Like, how do we get you paid? And I was like, okay, well, we'll talk about that, but whatever.
Right on the track.
Yeah. But it's really interesting, because I think as we get more experience behind us, and parenting is part of that. You have a child, Nick and I have kids, like, and getting a strong home life, whether it is, at home with your dog, or I'm seeing kids go to college and grad school, and Nick has a little bit of both. What is so valuable is our time. And I think we have to be very careful about how we spend that as consumers,
Yep.
And as those that are, we're in a position, I don't want to say you and me are the same at any way, but like in terms of being in the media
Yeah.
in the area, you
Mhm.
have to protect what people know about you and what access they get to you.
Mhm.
And I think, like you said, and it kind of alluded to, there are sometimes influencers and people who get an incredible amount of fame very quickly that they no longer have time, that they own themselves. And I think that's such an important thing in order to have a happy life
It is.
is
You're
Yeah.
right.
to have time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
being careful about how much you give out, right? You're
Mhm.
not giving all of yourself. I love the slow approach, the long
Mhm.
game. I'm going to advise our 3.5 TikTokers not to just consume it all really quickly, but
Yep.
slow burn, right?
Mhm.
Support
Well,
V. But like,
I
go
would
ahead.
just want to comment on
Yeah,
something Christine just said, which is
sure.
that you want peace, that your idea of success is peace. And when I was at the James Beard Foundation, I taught entrepreneurship for women and LGBTQ folks. And when we would do these conferences called Owning It, we'd be like, what does success look like to you? And they'd be like, $1 million, a second restaurant, a sous chef that could take over at night, all these different things. It was all these big, like tangible, easy to identify markers of success. And I
Sure.
was like, no, what do you want? What do you want to feel like? And they'd be like, I want to order off a menu without having to look at the price. I want to get my nails done once a week without worrying about if I can budget for that. I want my kids to have new soccer cleats every year instead of every other. I want to feel like I can go on vacation because I trust my staff. I want rest. Rest is actually what we're all going for. When we think about why we want to be a millionaire or a billionaire, it's not because we never think about that person in the office. We think
Mhm.
about that person on their yacht. We think about them
Yeah.
relaxing. And so when we're honest with ourselves about what success is the ability to rest. And I think you
Yeah.
nailed it when you said the ability to have peace. And on the other side of that coin, we would do something called fear listing, which is what are all your fears? And the women would say, oh, I'm afraid my restaurant will burn down. I'm afraid I'll be a failure. I'm afraid, I'll lose the right to use my arm or whatever these things are. I was like, what are you actually afraid of? And their thing was, I'm afraid I work so much that my kids will resent me. I'm afraid I'll make too much money that my husband will feel insecure. I mean, these were like deep, real,
Yeah.
tangible
Yeah.
things. And we're like, okay, now that we actually know what you're afraid of, what can we do about it? Can we do anything about it? Can we do anything about your husband being insecure if you're the breadwinner? I don't know. Maybe you should leave him. Maybe you should leave him if that's how he
Yeah.
acts. Or maybe we have a family conversation about his contributions to the overall business if it's that successful and like figure it
Yeah.
out. But it's about like getting past what we've been told is successful and going into what we're actually working towards.
You're
So good. Now you
so
don't have to go to the
Absolutely.
funny.
business coach. We did it together.
You're so
Yeah.
funny, V.
There,
Oh, you're just not cutting it, Greg. Okay?
Yeah,
You're
right?
not pulling enough in. You're out.
Yeah. Sorry, Greg.
Get
I
off the
just,
yacht. Here's a life preserver.
Like,
yeah, I just,
who is worth being married to would be angry if their wife was the breadwinner, right? Like that's a
I'll be
very
like, thank
people
God.
feel that way, right? People feel that way, but
Yeah.
like maybe that's not a person who actually fundamentally gets you and knows you and loves you.
Right.
So you
yeah,
got to think about it. It's tough.
yeah. It's so interesting because I think what we're getting at the heart of is every desire,
Yeah.
whether it's a new computer or a new job or a new partner,
Mhm.
is not about the thing. It's about the meaning behind it. And that I always come back to it. Nick is probably thinking, oh God, she's gonna go again with the archaeology, but every object, every desire has cultural and personal meaning. And it's not always about just capitalist money grubbing. It's about, you know, I I love this cup. Can we even see it with that? I
Yeah.
Kind of,
love
yeah.
this cup, not because it came from Starbucks. I don't even like Starbucks. I love it because it came from my daughter. You know what I
See?
mean? Right?
Well,
And
and the
that is the
archaeology is
need.
in that, right? When we find old money, we're like, oh, cool old coin. When we find a button from a Civil War soldier's
Yeah.
uniform or clay pottery or like an old toothbrush from some Victorian child, we're like, how did they use this? It's
Yes.
about
Yeah.
we obsess and we cherish the humanity and the stories of those humans much more than when we find money. We're like, oh, what a cool coin.
Well, and it's
Absolutely.
funny because like, you have the art of telling a story and stuff like that. And so like guitar pick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a guitar pick, right? Um, No, actually, this guitar pick was played by Billy Corgan on a Melancholy and Infinite Sadness tour, right?
Ooh.
Nope, it wasn't. Okay, but you put a story behind a guitar pick, it's no
Now all
longer
of a
a
sudden, yeah,
25
it's a new
cent
thing.
guitar pick.
Hmm.
It's like, oh my gosh, there's history there.
Yep.
And it's just that's the importance of like being able not to I didn't want to mean to lie to you guys, but like to tell a story and you put importance behind it and
Yep.
you put meaning into it. And I, honestly, that's one of the things that I like most about UV is that you tell the story, you share it, there's passion behind everything you say.
Hmm.
And I do want to ask, like, what motivates you to do what you do?
That's a good question. Applause. No, I
You're
I mean
just
like
like
a
me.
little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. I am a fairy. I need applause to live. So a little bit,
Me
I'm
too.
very motivated by positive reinforcement,
Mhm.
much more so. I always have been. I always wanted to be the good one. I always want to be a helper. I always want to be like the person who like, made people feel better and stuff like that. So I would say that's like part of who I am as a person. And I think that comes from being the oldest of three kids and you
I'm the
just
eldest
are
of three
that
too.
way. Exactly. Like you can't help yourself but to do that. So I think part of it is that. And part of it is I heard someone in the gay community say that like because a generation was robbed of queer elders, we really didn't have possibility models or people to look up to or people to
Mhm.
look out for us because there just wasn't that many people who were either out, and of course the AIDS crisis in
Yeah.
New York and Connecticut where I lived, it was difficult. We lost a lot of people. So we are today the safe adults and the guiding lights that we didn't have. And that like really stuck with me in a way where I was like, I do want to be a safe adult and a person who is just a little lighthouse over here. If you come over here, that's okay, but I don't
Mhm.
expect anything of you. But if you need a little light, I can help you get to, maybe where you want to go next. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of that, out of just like being a place to rest again, right? Like, when you watch my show, you're not going to get scared. I'm not going to manipulate you emotionally. I'm not going to scare you. I'm going to give you what you need to know. And I ask really nothing of you, except if you want to subscribe to my Substack, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think I like thinking about the big picture of the universe and my place in it is that I am a place of sort of like refuge for people. And I do that with the folks that I like mentor or people who just send me a one-off message. And that brings me a great deal of satisfaction, is just to be decent in a world that is often very cruel, is why I do it.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Yeah. I
thanks for
sound
being a
like a
positive light.
really old person to say there's no decency, but
Yeah.
I think we're on the same track of what we mean
Yeah.
by decency. It is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you look at any neighborhood group on like
Mhm.
Facebook or something, and you realize people are so mean. People
They
can
can
be so
be.
mean,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
also some really lovely,
Mhm.
lovely people, especially in Rochester. I keep saying that.
Well, it
Um,
is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we're here, right? This
yeah,
is
this
like
is
no smoke. I think Rochester is one of the few places left that at least I've visited where I feel like you could be new here and find a way to fit in. There are
Yeah.
some towns you go to that are great towns, but like if you're not a part of the historic family of Raleigh or something, like you're
Yeah.
going to have a hard time fitting in. If you come here, it's pretty easy to find community pretty quickly. There's a lot of stuff always going on. And actually, I've had several different people tell me that they have moved to Rochester because I live here and talk about it so much. And either they
no.
were two mom families who moved up from Alabama, another one moved up from Florida. There's a trans woman who cuts my hair who moved here from Wisconsin. And was just like, when you are looking for like what's a queer friendly place and you don't want to move to New York City, you're like, V lives there. It must be okay. It must be
Yeah.
somewhat safe. And I talked about like I know a lot of people don't like the governor. I think the governor is very talented legislator. She is just not very good on camera, and I'd rather have a good legislator than a talking head.
Mhm.
But I feel like when I tell people you can come to New York and you're going to be safer,
Yeah.
uh, that's true. And when you
Yeah.
come to Rochester, you will find friends and new family. You just will. I've not known anybody who's from here or that has come here that's like, this place sucks. Like even the people who move away are like, yeah, I don't want to stay in the town I grew up in, but it was a nice place to grow up, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. This is a really, and we want to be conscious of your time. You don't want to keep going on.
I've got 4 minutes more that I can do.
Yeah.
All right, great. Real quick, you mentioned Genesee Country Museum, which we're fans of. I love it. We go there. My husband's
Becky Wheel doing the best.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some other places for fun in the 585 that you and your family like to go or visit or participate in?
So we love Lake Ontario. We're always at Ontario Beach Park or Durand Lake. We don't swim in Durand Lake necessarily, but we do take the dogs there quite a bit. I love going to the Strong Museum. I think it's a wonderful experience that every single time kids have a great time every time, and it grows with you. So you never have to you see the butterfly garden once, you see it 100 times each time it's interesting. And I think that they do a great job curating over there. We love to go to the Playhouse, Swillburger, and play the arcade games. You could catch me there quite a bit. We love Ziggy's for Bills game days. If you're feeling extra rowdy and you want to go over to Ziggy's for a Bills game, that's a real fun time.
By the Public Market, right? Ziggy's?
Yeah, that's by Public Market. Speaking of, love Public Market. Ugly Duck Coffee and the Op Shop. That's like a whole Saturday for me and my wife. We love that. I try to get other places that we go that we really, really like. Is it Letchworth Park we go to pretty frequently. And then there's this place called Circle Park that nobody goes to. So we take the dogs there. If you look up Circle Park, it's pretty nice and it's well maintained. Oh gosh.
That's a lot.
Where else? We also went to that crazy asylum place. I can't remember the name of it. It's like scary. We've done spooky Halloween at Rolling Hills Asylum. Comedy at the Carlson is fun. Radio Social is fun. I don't really drink, so we don't go to many of the breweries and stuff, but we have been to a couple of bands at Three Heads and stuff. That's pretty cool. But there's just Stacy K Coffee down in the neighborhood of the arts is so much fun. If you've been there, delicious and so aesthetically pleasing in there.
White Swan is the name of the coffee.
Yep, we go there quite a bit. Between me and Leah Stacy at City Magazine, we'll tell you, everywhere to go. And then I just get my little City Magazine and we just circle stuff. And I go to shit all the time. If you want to see me out in the world, get you a City Magazine and
start circling.
Boop, you'll find me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You could do that with 585 magazine, I hear.
Oh, we can. Yes, let's do that too. Yes.
We got to cut up at the V trail, right?
Yeah.
In 585.
We should do a little a V tour or something.
Yeah. I would love that.
A day in the life of V, all the different places that I go in a day for sure.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I love the Grease Ridge Mall. Oh, I'm crazy for the Grease Ridge Mall.
Oh my God.
That not a lot of people like that, but I buy almost all my suits at Express. Our friend there, the lady who's the manager there, holds stuff back for me. She's like a personal shopper. I love her.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I spent a lot of time at Grease Ridge when my kids were little.
Yeah. Bosco's is coming. We're getting a Bosco's and a Shake Shack. So,
There you go.
Well,
Nick, go for it.
I was gonna try to wrap
last
it
up. Last one, Blackfriars. We go to a ton of shows at Blackfriars. Love them. Maybe someday they'll stunt cast me in something. You know how they put the mayor in 1776? I'm like, they gotta give me one line in a show.
They'll do it. I'm sure they would.
So V, thank you so much for being on the show. I definitely want to give you an opportunity to kind of share how people can find you. So what's the best place to find V?
You can find me at Under the Desk News on TikTok, Instagram, and Substack. For Substack, it's underthedesknews.substack.com. There you get lives. I do lives with all kinds of people. We chat about everything from the Diddy trial to politics to sometimes we just gossip about stuff, which is fun. You also get a newsletter every Monday. And then TikTok and Instagram is where you get the day's news in a kind way from a safe place. And that's pretty much it. I don't tweet or anything like that. I pretty much give you 1 or 2 videos a day that you can just get caught up enough to be conversational without being overwhelmed, know what's going on without being terrified.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time and for talking to us.
Yeah, of course.
Really fun.
Yeah,
it was.
For really being a beacon of positivity to Rochester. I just shining and people are coming to us because of you. So I really appreciate that.
Of course. Thanks. Awesome. Right. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Check out our website, www.thatsoundsterrific.com, to see a full list of episodes and learn more about our hosts, Nick Koziel and Christine Green. Be sure to find us on your favorite social media platforms or podcast listening service by searching That Sounds Terrific, and feel free to give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy our show. Until next time.